All right, Nick, let's talk about the Atlanta Falcons. The draft has passed us. Undrafted free agents have been signed. Now we like to dig in and see, were there any hidden gems? Could the Falcons have signed someone that they thought was an absolute steal? And there's one guy in particular, a certain undrafted free agent that we found that we think the Falcons really love, and there's a lot to love about him as well. We're going to dive into that in just a second, but first, I'm Andrew, that's Nick, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, Nick, as I alluded to, undrafted free agent, the Falcons really loved, and you can tell by what they signed him to, and then you dig into the numbers, there's even more to love there as well. Let's refresh everybody's memory with this tweet, and then we'll get into the numbers and the stats just after that. This is from over on X. It's Kevin Keneally, I believe, potentially says the Falcons signed one of the best undrafted free agent defensive tackles in Simeon Barrow out of Miami. He makes a huge impact in both the run and pass game. Obviously, it seems like the Falcons really love this guy because of the contract they signed him to. Before I tell you what the contract is, I want to preface this by saying the average NFL undrafted free agent contract usually goes league minimum salary, and it goes up incrementally over the next 2 years, usually a 3-year deal. So it starts out $840,000 2025, then it would go to $885,000 in 2026, $930,000 in 2027. But now, if you look at this chart here of what the Falcons have signed Barrow to, we can see they signed him for a good chunk of change more than what the league standard minimum undrafted free agent contract is. You see, he gets still the same $840,000 in 2025, but it goes up to just over $1 million in 2026 and $1.12 million in 2027. So did the Falcons just sign this guy to a couple $100,000 a year extra than everybody else for no reason? No, it's because this guy, I think he looks like a fantastic player. When you dive into his numbers, it says just that. This guy could be one of the ways that they could help replace Grady Jarrett's performance in the center of the field. Let's look at his stats, though, here first. Here's PFF grades. You can look for 2024. As you see, the charts, the numbers tell the story, but the chart next to the number also tells it as well. The further to the right the number is, the higher percentile that you are in that category. The further to the left is, the lower you are. And if you look at this guy, pass rush grade 72.1, pass rush grade for interior defensive linemen, very high in that percentile range. I would say well above average. Run defense grade 84.0, also well above average. His true pass rush grade is about slightly above average. I wouldn't say well above average. His pass rush win rate 11.3%, well above average, and his run stop rate 7.8% is above average as well. So the guy did well. He performed on the field, but also he is athletic and has very good attributes as well. If we pull up here, look at his RAS scores, relative athletic score, kind of combines every aspect of a player's game. You can see how athletic they are. This guy has a 9.05 out of 10, which is extremely high. I think he's in the top 100 of interior defensive linemen since like 1980. This guy was very, very good, very great athletic score. You can look at his times, 4.8940 for someone of his size, pretty decent time there. Great 20-yard splits, great 10-yard splits, great shuttles, got good lateral agility, good movement there. His bench, 32 reps on the bench. He's got the strength, got the power. Unfortunately, this guy was not invited to the combine for some reason, but if he would have been at the combine, that would have tied for first place in the combine for reps on bench. So this guy is an absolute beast in the weight room. He's very quick as well, and I think he looks like he could be a fantastic asset for the Falcons in the middle of the field. They're looking for a guy, too. They have replaced a lot of talent in the middle of that field, but I think this latest signing of Simeon Barrow, you look at the dollars they signed him to, you look at the stats, you break down the numbers, this could be a massive steal for the Falcons going forward. I'm curious what your thoughts are on this one, Nick, but before we get to you, Falcons fans, in the comment section below, we're talking about undrafted free agents. You have a couple of really good ones that you've signed so far. But now seeing the whole picture, kind of the whole market settled down a little bit, you can see everybody that's been signed. Who do you like the most out of the undrafted free agents for this Falcons team? Is it a guy like Barrow? Is it some of the other guys that they have signed? Let us know who's your favorite undrafted free agent prospect on this team, possibly someone that you think is going to make this team. Let us know in the comment section below. But nonetheless, Nick, what are your thoughts on this latest move out of Atlanta?
So you mentioned it right there towards the end about replacing some guys. So there's one guy, obviously an all-time great Atlanta Falcon, Grady Jarrett, that's now with the Chicago Bears. They're having to replace him. And look, we're not saying that this kid can replace Grady Jarrett. But what's very interesting is there's a lot of similarities. Grady Jarrett played his college football, ended up at Clemson, was a guy coming out, was sort of undervalued in the draft, slid to the fifth round, mainly on size concerns, really listed about 6 foot nothing, about 290-ish pounds coming out of school. So not ideal interior defensive lineman mass. So because of that, despite being a really good collegiate football player, Grady Jarrett fell to the fifth round. Obviously, the Falcons took advantage of that, and he went on to have a great career with Atlanta. Wish him all the best in Chicago, of course. But when you factor over Simeon Barrow and you look at his grade and his rating, it's almost identical. He's listed about 6'1", 280 pounds. And if you listen to his NFL.com scouting profile, it reads almost exactly the way Grady Jarrett's did. It begins fifth-year senior who is heavy on starting experience but light on measurables. Barrows lacks the size and strength of an NFL interior defender but flashes good upper body power to shed and tackle when he's singled up. Basically, the criticism with Barrow is he's a good player with a lot of experience, was at Michigan State for a long time, transferred to Miami. So this is a guy who's got a lot of maturity to him, played a whole bunch of football, a lot of experience, right? But he's a little undersized for an interior defensive lineman, right? People are looking to be 320 plus, 315 plus, and really look it too. He is a good football player. He is a playmaker. He's an underrated pass rusher. If you look at his numbers, here's where it gets crazy. So over his career, he has 16 sacks. As basically an interior defensive lineman, that is bonkers. There's a lot of guys. In fact, the Bengals picked up a guy in the first round, an edge rusher, who had 3 sacks last year, 3.5 sacks, something like that. And you look at Barrow right here. He had 5.5 last year for the University of Miami. So this is a guy who's a playmaker. He's a really good pass rusher. Again, the only real knock on him is that he is small for interior defensive linemen. And look, we've seen this before in NFL history. I brought up Grady Jarrett before. You go back a number of years, how about to the 1990s, John Randall, defensive lineman, very undersized for a defensive tackle. He went undrafted, went on to have a Hall of Fame career. Now, look, I'm not saying Barrow is going to fall in the John Randall footsteps or fall in the Grady Jarrett footsteps. I'm just saying that when you're going after undrafted free agents, when you're going after late round picks, get good football players, right? Like we talked about in some of our other videos, right? Use this pool of guys, day three guys, undrafted free agent guys that can be high floor guys, guys that you know can play the game. Barrow's a perfect example of that. The worst case you get with Barrow is, he's a good backup guy who's got a lot of experience. He won't be devastatingly bad for your defense, right? And he has a few good pass rush moves. That's sort of the base case, right? And that's what you need when you're talking day three undrafted guys, guys that can, worst case scenario, add a lot of depth and create a lot of value for your team without upsetting the apple cart. The Atlanta Falcons obviously had a very defensive heavy draft and they needed it. And if you look at a lot of their picks, they did a great job. In fact, if you look at their entire suite of selections, they got a lot of value. The Falcons, very quietly, front office has done a great job this offseason. But when you look at this selection right here, or this acquisition, I should say, signing Barrow right here as an undrafted free agent, I think it's very clear that the Atlanta Falcons are using a smart strategy. Again, they're going for the playmakers. Their first-round guys, hyper aggressive. We need superstars. They've rolled the dice twice to get at least one superstar on defense. Then you have to hedge your bet on the back end with good quality football players. And this move right here is a perfect example of this. Terry Fontenot, obviously as GM, the entire front office has taken a lot of heat over the past couple of years. Some of it very deservedly, but you got to give credit where credit is due. He's using a really smart strategy, and this latest move right here is a great example of it.
Yeah, Nick, and I love what you say about what you do with day three picks, with undrafted free agent picks. So we've talked about this through the last course of our videos, is get guys, like you said, that can know the game. They know how to play. They're productive players. Sometimes, you can look at guys that maybe are like freaks in nature as far as what they have physically. Like maybe they're really, really tall, really big guy, really quick in some aspect, but they lacked a lot of production. Those are really big gambles that you can take on day three and undrafted free agents. And I don't think they pan out quite as well as the guys that we love on this channel are guys that just know how to play football. Throw the measurables out of the window. If this is a guy who's been playing in the Big Ten, who's played at a high level ACC team in Miami that's been around a lot of big games, and he's putting the production on the field against some of the best players week in and week out. It doesn't matter what his measurables are. Focus on what he can do on the field. Can he produce? Is he good in the run stopping game? Yes. Does he get pressure at the point of attack? Can he convert? Yes. Is this a guy that has done it day in and day out throughout his entire college career? Yes. Has he transferred? Does he show maturity being able to move from team to team, place to place, Michigan to Miami? That's a pretty big move if you ask me. Very culture shock there. A lot different in Miami than it is in Michigan. So, yes, this is a guy that covers all those bases. He checks all those boxes. So it's like you said, very high floor player here. He knows the game, a lot of experience, a lot of production on the field. Maybe a little bit undersized, but the potential is there. The Falcons have had a type in the past at what they like at this spot. It seems like they still have a type in the future. And I think Simeon Barrow has a very good chance to, at worst, be a very productive backup, but at best, he could fill in the middle of this Falcons defensive line and be a contributor going forward.
And just the final point to end on here, it's also a great fit in terms of what the Falcons need, as everyone is very well aware of the fact the Atlanta Falcons pass rush last season was a debacle. They had the second fewest sacks in the entire National Football League, second only to the New England Patriots, who were just a disaster with injuries and production on defense last year, especially in the front seven. So it's clear the Atlanta Falcons, they don't just need defensive players. They just don't need talent. They need guys who can be productive, guys who can get the quarterback to the ground. And Barrow's a guy right here who, again, as an interior defensive lineman, right, he finished in the top 25 in the entire ACC in sacks, right? And if that was a first or second round pick, we'd like you to be a little bit better. But remember, this is an undrafted guy. This is why the Falcons shelled out more dollars. They look at this kid and they say, listen, he's a productive player. He gets to the quarterback. He gets them on the ground. He's got a lot of experience, all the things we've highlighted in this video. And the Falcons got him undrafted. You talk about value. You talk about a potential steal. You got this right here. High ceiling player, very productive, perfect fit. His skill set aligns exactly what the Atlanta Falcons need, and that's why they gave him the extra dollars. And again, we're not talking like an extra $10 million here. We're just talking, a little extra money than what normally undrafted free agents get. I think when it's all said and done, the Atlanta Falcons will be really glad they pulled off this move here. And Falcons fans, you may have a fan favorite before long. And now, look, I know it's early, right? A lot of things have to happen. But I tell you what, the more you look at this kid, and the more you're going to see him in practice and over the course of training camp, and as you get into preseason and then the regular season, you're going to realize you have a really solid player. Again, is he going to be a superstar? Probably not, maybe, but realistically, probably not. But you're going to have a good contributor providing a lot of value for your defense, both in the short term and the long term as well.